Yes.
Right.
All right. Call the meeting to
By the time
order.
you showed up.
You know, you're just starting to work.
Sorry about the delay. We now
I
have a quorum.
apologize.
Is there a motion to accept the minutes from August first? So moved
Drive
by
that.
Dan, second by Dale. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. All in.
So we sent out the auction list, so, permission, well, declare that should was the auction list for the two, veterans car, new vans that they got, replaced the old ones, so we're gonna sell them.
Is there a motion to
Move it.
second? All in favor?
Right.
Yeah. Okay. I just want to make it.
It's a good thing I showed up. I make enough noise for three. We have MS4 grant that has ended, but we still have to carry over some money to finish paying the bills, so request to carry over $22,574.
Moving finance.
Yep.
Second, any discussion?
No, I thought pretty purple.
All in favor? We're usually money, Dan. I want to check, make sure there's no question.
Yeah, but we don't even know. Good, I'm on.
What does MS mean? I've heard for years.
Municipal.
So
Next up. So every year we paint the lines on the roads, and this year the company is not going to paint the lines for it. And we have looked high and low and have not been able to find anybody. We did find that we have some options, so I wanted to just run all the options by you. So we did find a company who is striping in Warren County. And they will consider doing it for us. They're not sure they can put us into their schedule, but if we piggyback off of their bid, it's gonna cost about $450,000. We would have to work with them on using our paint. I don't know if they will do that, because what we do every year is we buy the paint and then we contract it out and somebody comes in and does all that. So that's an option. A new truck is an option. That's like 500,000. And a used truck, we haven't found a specific one, but we've found many that we like to look at as between 70 and 95,000.
What our usual yearly costs are on truck.
Okay, so the beads we have to buy anyway, so that they're usually about 133. They were $133,000 last year, or no, not the beads, the paint. Sorry,
Oh, the paint, okay.
The beads cost about $15,000 to $16,000 because you have to put beads on for reflectivity.
Where do they go, in the paint?
It goes on top of it as you're pouring it.
Oh,
in.
I just pour,
You
okay.
pour the paint and then the beads go right on top of it and then. you kind
So
of
it's
melt
quite a
it.
rig then, isn't it? Fancy rig.
So usually we paid roughly 30,000. Last year it went up to 63. Of course, everything's increasing. The bid price for this year was $115 per mile. It was 108 last year. The contract was it was not a it was a contract last year with the option to extend it on approval by both parties. We called them and they said, yeah, we're not interested. So we looked around, tried to find other people to do it. We haven't found anybody except possibly this company who's paving for Warren County.
If we choose the option to do it ourselves.
Then we used to do it ourselves.
I remember when we did it ourselves, when we got out of business.
Well, no, didn't it?
The truck
Truck
was,
caught on fire.
no, the truck was a piece of crap.
The truck caught on fire, it burnt up, and that was because we were using a different kind of paint. Now we have water-based paint, so the chances of that happening, I think, are greatly reduced.
And we do all 180 miles of road every year.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Huh?
Bill.
Just talk about
You have the capacity.
Is that what it is? I
Yeah,
thought
you do. Or if you don't, so what's gonna suffer, right? You obviously, certain capacity every year to do so much work.
Yep.
You're gonna take somebody off another job in the program to do this work. So what's our loss there? What's our opportunity?
So we have two people in the sign shop right now. One's out for an extended time. We don't know if he's coming back, but we have two people who are usually in the sign shop. It would take about 4 people to do this project. So we could either utilize summer help or we could utilize other people. It takes, when the people come to do the painting for us, they usually come twice. They come earlier in the year and then later in the year because we're not done paving. And it takes them a total of roughly 3 weeks, 3 to 5 days. So 15 days to do the work.
And you said you usually have 2 people with them anyways,
Yes,
so it's 2 extra people who don't are currently doing.
that's, yes,
But you could do it with a part-time summer home.
we could do it.
Well,
I think we can do it because one of them is following the truck in the truck.
Did you say that we currently pay $108 a mile, but if this new company can do it, it would be $115 a mile?
No,
Is that what I got out of that?
no, it is $108 is what we paid last year. If that company came back this year, it would have been 115. The
And we
price,
supplied the paint
yes,
on top of that.
yep. The price for the company who's working in Warren County right now is 7.3 cents a foot. But they supply the paint, that's supplying the paint.
7.3 cents.
Yep.
5,280.
That's wow.
That's a landmark.
350.
Yeah, we have 284
do it.
miles and the towns do roughly 25 to 50.
What are you coming up with?
$385 a mile.
That includes paint.
Yeah.
But we already got to pay.
We already got paint.
I could see entertaining buying a new rig and a new truck if we were like 3 years in a row, we can't find anybody. I don't want to buy a new truck just because we have a problem this year.
Is there a reason why they won't do it? The ones that normally do it?
Oh, yeah, I think they're going out of business. One of their driver got sick.
So it isn't just this year. Right?
Well,
that-
you could have, but a new vendor might show up next year.
Yep,
I mean, if we had more time to research it.
that's why we're hoping to maybe get a used truck for a couple of years and see.
Already rigged up for paint.
Yep.
And the
For
beat.
Will we buy the beads?
Oh,
Yes,
the
yes,
paint.
yep.
for 95,000, high end,
Right.
compared to 450,000.
It's kind of hard to do
Compared
apples
to
to apples
one as
because
paint.
it's.
We'd have to put it out to bid.
Mr. Hanky?
2 things. Number 1. Isn't there's, I think, a little bit concerned about using summer help to on a state driving truck. I mean, it seems like it's fairly technical. Sort of the job, we're gonna be strafing over mountains and around trees and all kinds of things, or it seems like there's training involved. with
I
this.
think the truck does most of the work.
Yeah, somebody's gotta drive the
You gotta
truck.
drive it straight.
She meant to buy the follow vehicle, right?
Yes, so
Taken, right?
there's
gotta have
2
some-
to 3 on the truck, and
Yeah,
there's 1 to follow.
okay, so it seems like the stuff on the truck requires some kind of training. People don't just hop on it and go, I wouldn't think.
No, that's what our 2 people that we have in our,
They have
Summer shop right
experience
now.
doing that.
no, we would have to train.
Our guys-
So we got a training. If this company is going out of business, who else are they doing around here? You know,
Who else is?
are they doing in Saratoga County? Are they doing in Warren County? Are they? doing
No, the
in
company
Oregon?
that is, I don't know if they're going out of business, but they told everybody that they were supposed to work for this summer that they are not.
Who is everybody?
Albany, Dutchess, and us that I know of.
What I was trying to get at is if we went ahead and bought a truck, had guys trained specifically to run that truck, could we make some money doing it for other counties and other towns and things like that?
So
I'm thinking a little storage, but here with me.
yeah, that is something that Albany and I were trying to work out. They are buying a truck, a used truck. That will not help us this year, but it may help us next year. So
What would happen if we didn't make the straight?
I would not recommend. There's, I know,
There would just be 2-year-olds, right? Because we do it every year.
Yeah, but you got paint,
The new paved roads.
new page roads.
so we paint every year. And our paint, we're looking into getting some grants from the federal government to get better paint because our paint doesn't last great. We did look into doing the thermoplastic paint and it was like $115,000 for, I think, 20 lines. So that would we couldn't fund it. So we're looking into funding because the reflectivity of the paint, which those rules are changing soon because of the new cars that are gonna be on the road have to recognize the paint. So that's kind of coming down the pipe. Where was I going with this? We were looking into that. So yes, we paint all of our yellow lines every year, 100%. And they're still not perfect by the end of the year. They wear out pretty quickly. And we paint 75 to 80% of our white lines. So to skip a year, I don't think is a great idea. Well, I wouldn't recommend.
Well, that was my question.
We
Skip a
do.
year.
We do 284 miles and the towns do between 25 and 50, which we do for them.
I think mathematically, you've got to buy a used truck because 95 compared to in 1 year, 95,000 compared to 450,000. It's a no brainer,
And I think,
even if it's a 1-year fix.
yeah, the challenge would be, can we find a piece of use?
Yeah, we've been looking around. There's a lot of stuff out there. We would definitely have to travel to find or to look at them. Albany County is buying theirs at a place in North Carolina that has a whole bunch of paint trucks down there.
So what you're saying is there's a road trip in the future.
Hopefully that.
Melissa,
So if we're going to purchase a used vehicle, we have to go out to bid. Right, we can't just go to North Carolina and get a vehicle. unless
Right,
it's
we would have to go
government
out to bid.
surplus or something like that.
Yeah.
So if the bid went out on the 7th of September, it would be due September 14th, which would be the day before the board meeting. So that means we'd have to ask to award the bid at the board meeting, right? And then if there's a trip involved at that point to go pick up the vehicle, that would have to be in that resolution as well.
Why can't we just piggyback off the road?
Did Albany go up to bid? How are they getting?
Albany
roads
is
like
going up
us.
to bid and they wrote up their specs for that bid, which is
So-
what we would do is write up specs that would probably be the same or similar.
So if it's what we're looking for and Albany County has the ability to piggyback written in their bid,
It's being the bid.
then we can piggyback.
Isn't that kind of common language?
Not always. They
Yeah.
don't all allow it.
I'm gonna ask her.
That's a good option.
All depends how that bid's written.
I'm guessing not on this one. Only
Maybe
because
already,
they-
maybe already piggyback
Really
off somebody
fine
else.
print, really fine. Matter of fact, it might be on the back of the page.
you're a little.
Maybe disappearing.
That's a good question. Yeah.
I kind of agree. I think what Bob is saying is we're rushing into this, not really thinking about it.
What
Do they need these roads? There's no law that says that they have to be painted this fall, right? Although it's good practice because they're getting paid. Can this be something we can work on and paint it in the spring when the roads dry out?
But you have
And
some
which-
roads without paint at all
Huh?
right now. You have some roads that don't have any paint right now. The new roads they don't.
Oh, the new roads.
Yeah.
And how many miles of that is there?
About 20.
See, that's all. Well, what I'm saying is we're rushing around and right here, right now, real fast.
We've been doing this for months.
Well, that's first I've heard of it. I'll say it that
We have
way.
a 4-inch roller.
I think
I have a safety concern that if we don't do it this fall, have you ever been in a snowplow truck? That's like snow blankets
Yes, I
in a
have.
storm,
been in
and then you
some
can't see the lines. I'm not sure, not to mention the public.
You can't see the
Yeah,
lines
yeah.
if there's 1 inch of snow on top
I
of
know,
it.
but there are still some times where you can pick up some of it. I don't know, I'm just thinking that as a
How do you
safety
see
concern.
a line on a road and
A fog.
you're bound to snow off?
Well, I'm just saying that it might pick up some reflective, but let's say the fog
Will recognize the paint underneath the snow.
or the fog, yeah, I know.
So.
But you still have the fog and, I don't know, I just have a serious problem with a safety concern, your safety, dude.
We do have a little bit of a timing problem at this point. Only because, and the reason why I think we're in a bit of a crisis management mode is, we don't have a whole lot of time to put paint on the road. And if we go through the process, even putting out a bid, are we comfortable going right into full committee with a proposal that she gets back in September?
Seems like you guys must have been working on this a while.
Oh, yeah, we didn't want to narrow it down to one thing because we don't know what we're doing. We didn't want to put time into all of that. So we've got a range of what we've got, what we like, what we think we need, what we, you know.
There's no guarantee of a contractor taking these projects on right now, so there's no assurance we can get it done. I think where the committee is right now is we probably gotta do it ourselves. And what's the most economical way to get it done ourselves? Short term. Just try our own paint and staff.
And you guys been working on it, what's the recommendation?
Let's buy a used truck.
Use our own paint and staff.
See, if Albany doesn't have a piggyback provision, you're only talking 1 month. That's right. So I think plan A would be, hope Albany has a piggyback. If they do, then we can do it in September. You'll probably find out today if they have a piggyback, and if not, then you just adding a little bit more time. I think the end goal is still by.
Oh, adding more time, I don't. We're in time. Because if we get it back in October, we really don't want painting.
What if we made a motion that was contingent upon piggyback clause?
Well, I think we make a motion that that's the fastest way, but if it isn't, you don't hamstring yourself. You can still write up a bid.
Right, so the motion might be something like, make a motion to check with Albany County for a piggyback clause. If the piggyback clause is available, secure a used truck through their contract. If that's not available, put a bid out.
I don't think Roger would never allow a either or motion.
It's not an either or, it's
I have-
then.
I have one more question.
Contingent.
The company from Warren County, they charge by the foot. What if we just did the new pavement, and then spring we could come in to either have an own truck or have a new contract with somebody?
So I called them today and asked them that, and they said that that was not something that they would entertain because they wouldn't make any. Because our roads are from South County to the north of the county, and to do just 20 to 50 miles, they would need an entertainment.
So the one thing I overlooked is this paint we all, can that be left out and frozen in the winter time?
It's water based,
Huh?
not just water based.
Well,
It's water based.
I have Cassie and then Dave.
I couldn't. All right, so I'm already not sure of a storm in the shed this morning with snow comment, but I was thinking 5 cents snow. Anyway. Can we put it out the bid, because we can refuse all bids, so why couldn't you set the bid out at the same time you were
Check.
give her permission, checking with Albany, why aren't we starting with that, and then you can always piggyback and drop all and not take any bids, right?
Yeah.
So why can't we do both of them?
Can't the motion just be simply to go for used truck?
Right, and then,
Process, the procurement process and policy. we gotta
Whether
follow.
it's piggybacking.
or whether it's a bid,
You don't need it.
right?
So I'd like to make a motion that we put a bid out.
We have a motion in a second. Dave, you have comment?
That was the same thing I said, just say according to procurement policy and you're done.
And
Saratoga County, they got their own.
They have their own truck.
Have you reached out to them, see what we can hire them for, to paint our? Or paint our roads, and will they do it?
They don't have time. They don't have time.
Don't.
Like they have a lot of towns who require a lot of painting. So they're painting their county roads and their town roads and their truck is busy the entire summer.
Makes
We don't
sense.
have a lot of town roads that get painted.
Yeah, there are other towns all paint.
okay, we have a motion to put out a bid for a used paint truck. Any more questions? Comment?
Dan brought up an interesting question. If this doesn't work, do we have a heated space where we can store this thing?
Matt says it can freeze. I said, can it freeze?
This is a lot of space. Yeah, there's shoes.
Well, it'll burst the can.
Yeah.
They're in those toes.
So they couldn't even go into the empty jail.
Last time I saw them, the plastic.
That's.
I mean, it's just that.
Them that are 4 foot by 4 foot.
We could probably
It is.
find a place to keep it.
It's over at our points.
Yeah, but I don't think the paint's any good after.
I don't know.
Okay.
Did we vote?
We have not voted. We had one more question. All in favor of going out for bid, say aye.
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 Opposed?
So. Do I talk to Brian about procuring it? Like, you know, Al, how we don't, like, we have some money in our budget for this. Or do I not bring that up?
If you need more money, you're gonna have to know that by finance.
Okay, so at finance, we should
Well, we
have,
won't know. If we putting it out, then we won't know that thing. I just won't know from David for the board.
So you may have to introduce a resolution from the fourth case, if you don't run.
That's county road. What is a vehicle different?
Look, she-
it would be a kind of, yeah.
there's a little bit that they haven't spent, that's what I think. Like, they may or might not make it.
How close, how much money have we got in the budget right now for line paint?
In line painting, we have $65,000 right now. And
We might just need
You
to
might just need.
move some of that money into later.
that's in a different, different fund.
Yeah, I understand.
But it's there.
It's there, not, that's a pool we're not gonna use.
What's underneath? Equipment vehicle?
2070, DM 5130, 2070, I think is the.
That is not the budget for painting, that is what
That's the
the
equipment.
budget would come out of. The budget for painting is in the it's the 5135, is that the
That you went through.
purple one? It's the, or not purple, I'm sorry, the very beginning of D, the very first section is the sign shop, that's where.
3310.
3310.
All right, I'll.
But yeah, that entire line of 65,000 in there is just for the painting, there's no other contract expenses in that account.
I guess the bottom line is if you can make it fit within the budget, we don't need to go through finance, so. Yeah.
Hopefully we don't have to figure out that paint can stick with salt so good.
Wash them first. So
I'll wait.
any more? So I
Good luck.
just,
Good luck.
so I just wanted to talk about our bridges, so you're all aware of them. I did tell you about Camden Valley having a red flag and we put a temporary bridge on it. Then we got Chamberlain Mills, which is in Hebron, which is what we call twin tubes. And we put a detour bridge on that one. Goodman Road, which is up in Fort Ann, which is a steel deck bridge. I think the load rating came in at 8 tons, 13 tons or 11 tons. In the end, it was they changed the load rating. So that one is load rated. So we didn't have to close it, but you can go around. So we're gonna set up some turnarounds for school buses and stuff like that. And then most recently on Owl Hill, which is a concrete deck. There's a red flag on that. That has what is called side mounted rail. And the salt water rolls over the edge right onto the exterior girdle, so we think we can put that. We don't need to put a temporary bridge in that. We can figure it out.
We got that a temporary bridge.
Yeah, we're gonna, we're saving one for you. And, just keep that all in mind when we come to budget meetings.
That's funny, special treat.
That's all I have. Any questions? Thanks.
Believe we have the new manager. Introduce yourself to the committee.
Yeah, I'm gonna have a couple of you, for those that don't know me, I'm Kevin Gorman, I'm the new assistant director of the Mechanics School District. I hope to work with all of you hand in hand over the next however many years we're all here. Yeah, I didn't have anything actionable on the agenda, so, you know, this is my first meeting. I figured what better way to start than to update everybody on everything going on. We have 7 projects going on in the sewer district, either ongoing now or in development. My plan today and my plan moving forward would be to update everybody as updates become available for those 7 and see many more. First thing I had, we are issuing RFPs next week for a capital improvement plan for the sewer district. This is something that was developed by my predecessor. We already have received $55,000 ESD grant towards that capital improvement plan. The idea is to get proposals to assess the needs of the district immediately and long term. Ultimate goal would be to kind of set up a timeline for the next 25 years of district projects, everything down to budgetary. Number 2, the Irving tissue temporary line relocation update. It's my understanding this has been kind of in development for a couple of years. What they're doing is they need to relocate one of the sewer lines that goes through their property in order to put an expansion onto one of their buildings. We've been working hand in hand with the DEC on this, to make sure, you know, everything is covered. We've reached an agreement with them. They have to do stormwater management modeling to make sure it won't affect anything in our system flow wise. We are a combined sewer system, so anybody that doesn't know what that means, so we have stormwater and sanitary water going into our sewer system. So we want to make sure anything that happens, not just in Irving, but any project anywhere, doesn't add to any combined sewer overflows, which means water going into the river before it reaches the sewer plant. They also agreed to give us an easement through their property, which previously we don't have, and they're paying for any inspection services that will be incurred due to this project. So it should be no cost to the district.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Do we have to excavate and remove the existing line? Could we just end it off and leave it right there without digging it up? But you're gonna put a new line that goes around.
Yes. As far as that plan, I don't know. I mean, they're funding everything with that project.
Because I thought the worry was we didn't want to have an existing line underneath their new development. But does that necessarily mean we have to just leave it, abandon it and leave it?
Yeah, in theory, you wouldn't have to, but I haven't had that conversation. I don't know what the latest plan was.
Good question.
I can get you that answer.
Because otherwise we wouldn't need an easement, maybe a determination of the easement.
Well, the easement will be for the new line going around, so any maintenance or work that needs to be done on the new line that they're putting in.
But the new line is going to be off their property.
No, I'm sorry, that was a separate project. That was the FE1A project. That is no longer the case. They're basically moving it still within their property, but around the building that is going in.
Okay.
I have a question that I might have missed the answer was passed. We're a combined system, sewer and stormwater. Eventually is the goal to separate those two.
That's everybody's goal. Actually, one of my next point is a stormwater separation project, but to completely separate the whole system.
Next
20 years,
possible?
you know. Yeah,
Okay.
it's, you know, it was all built 50 years ago combined, and everybody's goal is to separate it, but it's a lot of money and. So, step by step, you know.
Yeah. Well, we keep hearing where they're separating this section, the stormwater from. But, and then there was infiltration, and I don't know why I always thought, I never realized they were built to be together. And now we're trying to separate them. I thought they weren't built to be together, but they had been put together over.
No, they were actually
Right.
built together. There are catch basins that go directly into sewer lines, yeah.
Very good. Glad I know that now.
No, yeah, bringing me to the next one, it's a RFQ for the Hudson Falls 1A project, so this is out already, request for qualifications for engineering firms, and this is to do with a major stormwater separation project out there. We have received some grant funding for this, I do not have the exact amount right here, but we also applied for several more funding streams. Two different grants. We applied for bipartisan infrastructure law money and 0% financing. You know, we don't know what we'll get, what we don't get. That'll come out when the funding news comes out in the next couple of months. But we did have a lot of interest in this RFQ, and we'll be opening those September 7th. So hopefully by the time we have another meeting, I'll have more information on that. And the goal with that is that we award the RFQ, we hope to do design this winter. Hopefully construction as early as next year, more realistically, probably 2025. So that's kind of the three major ongoings out of the 7. I'm sorry, I also have the actual, the large wastewater construction project update. That's the point. I guess I could jump to that now. As of last week, we are 63% done with the wastewater plant construction project. That's the 15 million major energy performance contract project. Most of the work lately has been to do with the anaerobic digesters side of that. Yeah, I don't know how brushed up you guys are on all of the projects. I'm kind of starting from the bottom. They finished a couple other areas of the plant, including the preliminary treatment building. They're wrapping that up, and then the effluent pump station is in, but should be in operation any day now. And other than the projects, the other thing I'd like to bring up is just the staffing, where we are. You know, coming in, I realize we're slightly understaffed, functioning well. And that being said, we just started with a new senior operator. He's a licensed 3A New York State DEC operator, which is hard to find nowadays. So we're grateful for that. He's been a great addition so far. We have a couple interviews coming up next couple of weeks for operator trainees, which the goal with them would be to get them licensed, but that takes years to happen. And we're also going to be looking for a laborer for our collections department, hopefully by the end of the year. So that's my, bottom from the top update for you guys. I don't know if that was informative and you would like things like that moving forward, or just for actionable items, It's my first meeting, so.
No, thank you for the update.
Yeah.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you. A lot going on.
There is.
Kevin?
Yeah.
What's the status of the slip lining project?
The slip lining project, we are. I'm not entirely sure.
It doesn't matter, just,
You talk about.
it's
The
over.
new project,
Sewer district one,
that's
yeah,
what-
we just had the presentation at the I think I'll get back to
No problem, no problem. Don't expect you to know everything today.
you.
3 weeks from now, I'll
Yeah.
still be here until it's done.
This might have been asked and answered months ago, but I can't seem to remember, but I thought we talked about it. Used to be, private haulers could haul in, and then that was shut down because of capacity and do it anymore.
Yes.
With the new upgrades and everything, will haulers be able to use your site?
We are not that far yet. The problem with septic coming into a sewer plant is it's gonna increase your sludge output as well. And, we have we're able to compost our sludge, which is huge. Most plants don't have that ability, but, sludge disposal prices are rising rapidly everywhere you go. So I guess to answer your question of capacity, I don't think we're that far yet. We are receiving new anaerobic digesters. Which that would be where the septic sludge will be processed. But there's also the other issue of getting New York State DEC back on board with us accepting septic. So I can't answer that right now.
Well,
we would hope to get that additional revenue.
Who would be promoting this with this, to do it, who would promote that? Because you take Washington County to rural county, you've got your little sewer district. And you've got all the rest of the county that their septic systems have to be pumped and hauled, and if you have to go to Stillwater, the fee is a lot higher than if you could come to Port Edward. So I mean, it'd be a benefit to our taxpayers.
Well, at one point, some grand scheme for funding that this was the goal was to allow for that again.
Well, and that's how, but somebody has to say, yeah, that's a good idea, and we hope we can do it. And I mean, I'm not pointing any fingers, I'm just saying, is that something that's doable? And if so, are we going to encourage ourselves to go that direction? Or are we gonna say, no, we don't wanna do that anymore? We don't wanna provide that service. So I'm just asking.
I come from an operator background and I was taking septic in my last place of employment because we had the capacity for it. So it's definitely something I want to explore.
Okay,
As far as marketing it, if that's what you're asking, if I do find we're able to take it and it's not gonna cause any issues with us permit wise or budgetary wise, depending on what the sludge costs at that point, then, I would love to put it out there to the public,
I think what Dan meant was who's gonna push this train down the tracks.
Well, I guess what I wanna know, if the county doesn't wanna do it, they're gonna encourage you not to do it. And I didn't know, this question was more to the county than it was to you. But I asked you the question because being the operator, is it capable of doing it, number one? Because if it's not, then we don't need to talk about it anymore. But if it's gonna be capable, I think it's something that the county should encourage the sewer district to look into and explore. Maybe I needed to word that.
No, I agree with you. I need to find out why we stopped taking it in the first place to answer.
Yeah.
If we take it again.
Your assumption is it would be less expensive for local haulers, but it may not, based on whatever, as he builds capacity. We don't know what the cost is gonna be.
Right, he has to charge it now, so it's not negative.
It's gotta be cost neutral.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, and then that's his priority, but I just want to know the encouragement. I mean, is this something that the county?
But I think we did this already. When we authorized funding a long time ago, the grand thing was to build capacity to allow it. Yeah, do you remember this conversation?
I'm not sure in that big presentation.
Well, then this is a good opportunity to remind all the supervisors that's what our goal was.
Well, I think we said that it depends on the capacity of the plant. And I think that's also, decisions also be affected by removing a lot of these hundreds of thousands of gallons of I&I coming into the system. So it's not just a simple answer, we can make a decision now. We need to get to a point where our sewer district is comfortable marketing this.
And that's kind of where I was going with the DEC approval, you know, they might want us to take out a bunch of I before they allow us to take septic again. But I will say it's not just a problem here, you know, it's a problem everywhere. A lot of people are refusing septic, you know, they're having to travel farther and farther to much larger plants, you know, such as Albany County, which becomes more expensive for the haulers, so it becomes more expensive for the.
Well, Queensberry fix it, right?
You, Glenn's Falls.
Well, maybe that's what.
I think we had one more little budget amendment on that.
Okay, yeah, I wasn't sure if that was added on, but I didn't have that. We talked with Al, I think it makes more sense to do a budget transfer in that situation, you know, it's only $250, so. We should don't need the budget amendment today.
Okay, well said. Okay, then, very good. Well, welcome, and it sounds like you're getting a good handle on everything, and you're jumping in right at the right time. Budget season. I heard you work closely with Al and Brian, because in the past, some of the budgeting on the sewer side have been a little off sometimes.
And I can tell you, he's done a great job already. I've been working with him this past week and he's actually doing a really good job.
Well, thanks, everybody, and
Thank you.
call me whenever. You know. All right.
We treated you well today. So
Yeah, all right, next time I'll be more prepared.
you're very well prepared for the time you've been here.
Is there any other business to come before the committee?
Handouts. Hey, Melissa, what is this thing that makes my head tingle?
All right, morning, everybody. I'd like to call to order the Washington County Board of Correction of Committee on Public Safety
Dan, this yours?
for this August 31st.
Leave it on the table, yeah, for anybody.
Can I have a motion to accept the minutes for August 1st meeting?
So moved.
Dave, second, Dana Hope. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Partner reports, probation's up first, with update on his renovations. You know, you didn't have to soak everything to get a renovation.
Well, they had a hose near me, so. Just the renovation, about half our office is carpeted, sheetrock and painted, so we took everybody in the office that was down in the old part, and moved them down to the newer part. And hallways are still concrete floor and waiting to be, they'll be done last, but now they're doing the front part of the office while they're there. That's a totally different project. That's patching some holes in the walls and painting carpet and done, not gutting, redoing things like the other side. There wasn't damage to the front part of the office, so it's while you're there, it's cheaper and smarter to facelift it and try to come back later and do it. So I don't have a timeline on when that'll be done, but our office is still functioning, and they're out of the office a lot more than they are normally, because you know, the construction sounds like, and so when you're trying to interview people in the department, it's very difficult when construction equipment is going on, drills and hammers and everything else. So it's a process. We're gonna get through it hopefully in the next couple of months. But it's a perfect time, you know, with the weather. It's actually great to be out of the office, doing your home visits, being in police departments. September's hitting, so school will be back in session, so we'll have officers out seeing kids and families in schools. And that will just help the situation for ourselves and buildings and grounds, so we're not on top of them. I know it's been difficult for them because they usually would like to do work in a normal construction setting where you play a radio and just work mindlessly all day on what you're supposed to be doing instead of worrying about us constantly asking them to hop out of the way or close the door because we're doing something. So it should be getting better very quickly. Thank God for the fair, actually. Usually the fair is crazy. And it's a weird time in our county because, you know, you have staff down there and you have staff here, but it got, every day, 4 officers out of the office to vacate some space, and that worked out pretty good. I actually wanted to mention that because we have a lot of questions every single year about our department there. Our department's role at the Washington County Fair is, we work mostly the gate or high children areas. So if there's an area where children congregate, just to make sure our sex offenders are not on the property. We've always told them they couldn't go to the fair, but we've always kept them at the fair. 2 years ago, we started actually going to the fair, and it changed. It changed a lot when they actually saw us on the property. So after catching a few people there, we don't see them coming to the gates anymore. The first year we had people actually applying to work there that were registered sex offenders, and they were hired, and we had to tell the fair that they can't work there. It's worked out pretty good. The fair office reported again this year that they're receiving phone calls constantly on whether we're going to be there, which means we're doing the right thing. We were lucky to not,
This year, for the first time, I noticed at the fair, probation walk around with their vests and it says probation right on it. Highly visible. And I think that maybe if you're walking around, you see somebody suddenly turn around, walk the other way, do you like to follow that person because they saw you first?
if it's somebody of ours, if it's not, we don't handle that. We try to be at the gate as much as possible. The people that walk through the fair are usually a second shift, or the people that you're relieving, so that way they can get away from the gate. The fair moving to a single gate, it's been wonderful because we can catch everybody coming in at once and you don't miss things, but that's what you're seeing is the people that are being relieved from the front gate that walk around the fair. It works out pretty good. We're not there for any other general purposes for our people. However, when kids come up and they're missing, they're still doing those duties that are very appropriate. So every year you have people that can't walk out to the parking lot and they're stopping at you because they might need a hand. So our officers, they like that part. Everybody that walks through our door is a convicted criminal. And it's something that you usually can't say in a county department. We laugh at the sheriff's department because they get to deal with a lot of really good situations in the community of people that haven't committed a crime. It's a normal community interaction, and that's not our job. So usually when you come in, except for our juvenile side, we do receive intakes on juveniles that people have gone to court. But on the adult side, when you receive a case, they've already gone through court most of the time, or they've pled guilty and you're doing a pre-sentence investigation on somebody that's been convicted. So it's a different world to actually interact with the public a little bit and then in a comfortable, nice community setting. So for us, it's a good mental break for our officers also.
And how do you deal with, if there's another gate for the people that come in with their RVs and animals, and also the carnies?
Yeah.
How do you, now I'm sure there's a lot of carnies, but they're probably not in your system that you would, how do you handle that? Is there some kind of a regulation the fair has that was a Amusement America? Who's the main vendor of all the rides?
They're separate from us, and because the fair doesn't have a policy overall on registered sex offenders coming into the fair, we can only control the ones that we have on supervision. We contact Saratoga County, Rensselaer County, Cornwall. We talk to their staff members about, please don't have your sex offenders come to our fair. But we have flip charts, our people, and that's who we have jurisdiction over. So we target those populations to make sure that are in compliance. We can't do anything about if the people that are involved in the carnival are registered sex offender. That's up to the fair board, the fair office. That's not our purview. Now,
I'm not executive
Yeah.
committee.
now this is probably a conversation for the fair, not for the county, because we're separate. I can advise.
Historically, they would run the names, the carnival employees would be run through the sheriff's department. I don't know, I haven't followed up, but the last I knew, they used to always do that, they're looking for warrants and anyone that's on that, so that would be. That's a law enforcement, and then I believe. The sheriff, under sheriff, they used to do that, I would imagine.
Greg Gagnon heads up the sheriff's control for fair. And he's who I work with every year to make sure my guys are adapted appropriately. And then we also talk about how we're dressed. So the way they're dressed, the way we're dressed, just for professionalism and visibility. And when we work with public safety with how we communicate around fairgrounds, I have to send my sheet of all of they already have it, all of our contact information. But when it comes to the fair's rules, that's different. And I believe Greg Daniel was the one who found our officer our ops secretary who tried to apply for a job there. He was the one who mentioned that to us a couple years ago. And that really pushed us even harder to make sure we were staffing instead of just trying to find somebody like you're there. Back. It's a good function. I want to continue in the future. I looked at our overtime numbers and what people were claiming. The only people that claimed anything were actually officers that were dealing with separate juvenile issues during the same week. We had the shooting, we had another person returned on a warrant at night or something like that. We had our nighttime arraignment. So those people that were involved in those juvenile incidents were the only people that claimed any overtime. So it's actually working out pretty good within our existing budget. Jeremy, do you have a question?
Just a comment, excuse me, like historical perspective, back in the good old days, it seemed like every other arrest was somebody we had to refer back to probation, and we're always calling somebody, man, I really strongly support them being down there, I think that's a good thing to do. From all the perspectives that Dan mentioned, was just from the perspective of if they can prevent some of this, it was pretty characteristic of a couple of years, it seemed like, literally 50% of our arrests, were guys that we never should have been on fairground in the first place. Good job, you guys are good now.
We'll be questions every single year while we're there because it's surprising to people to see us there and they don't understand what our functions are, and that's fine. I think it's better that I just kind of give you an update in case you get any questions. You also get a question every year at Halloween on why you see us out all around the county. We do the same thing the night before Halloween to make sure our sex offenders don't have decorations up or their lights on. They have curfews during those times. We go out 2 nights in a row for that, so you'll receive the same kind of questions in a couple months. Quick update on that.
Mr. O'Brien, do you have a question?
No, I was just gonna say I didn't realize that there are 2 entrances for people to come in. One where the big one, then there's one down there, probably about a couple hundred yards away
By the pit.
by the pit.
Yeah, we go over by the pit a lot, and the good thing about the pit is we usually know almost everybody in the pit, because we have staff that work, we have firemen that work in our department, and they're in the pit as firemen a lot, so we're very close to the pits, and our people, it seems like our staff, like a lot of the activities that go on there anyway, so we seem to be down there quite a bit, but you're right, that's the good thing is you can see the gate and you can get over there, when you have your split shifts, you can get over there a lot. It's that, thank God that overwhelming, I know tractor pull days, it gets a little busier, but that main gates, especially last year when we had those crazy attendance numbers, that main gate was like I've never seen before, and it's where we have to put our attention.
Any other questions? Well, I want to thank you for being able to engage with the public and educate folks on what you do. That's important. Anytime you get a chance to do that, we're out to expand that. Thank you,
Thanks.
sir. Good luck on your renovations.
Yeah, thanks.
You don't have a chance, if you have a chance, you can get down there and take a look at that. So a lot of work's going on down in the basement. All right, with that, thank you for that update. The district attorney serves.
If you're not sure where it is, we can arrange an invitation.
I know, it's not that easy to get to.
A mandatory.
Consider derogatory.
One thing I would add though, because I think a lot of times people don't appreciate this. If someone's not on parole or probation, the mere fact that they're a registered sex offender doesn't prevent them from being able to be at places. So that is always a misunderstanding and a challenge, but I think historically Amusements of America has always taken that very seriously. In terms of they don't want issues with their rides. Where that's.
Not cars.
That's
I stand corrected, I'm sorry.
According to Reddit, that's the right.
Carny person, is that okay?
Carnival worker.
Carnival profession.
It is, they approve to travel. So my request is, it's a one-off, it's not part of the policy, and I just wanted to kind of go through why I'm looking to do what we're doing. I have a member of our team who's our senior crime victim specialist, Robin McNeil. Robin had worked for the county for 12 years, plus or minus, I think just over 12 years. Left for 10 months to go to, she was in Department of Social Services as a caseworker. Left for about 10 months to go to the state, realized that her passion really was with the county, and the timing was perfect because we had an opening in our for a senior crime victim services person. She's now been with us for 7 years. The problem is that gap in service under our policy impacts her vacation time. It impacts a lot of other things, but I'm only looking at vacation time. And if I could beg of you some time to kind of walk through why, I'd appreciate it. Thank you. You know, one of the challenges that we're trying to avoid, if you turn on the news or watch any of the business networks, you'll realize that across the country, retaining quality, experienced employees is harder today than ever. Hiring someone of equal ability, knowledge, and commitment is near impossible, and I would submit dedication to Washington County. You're not going to find that match, and what is difficult, and it's in, to my not, you know, ideal just with the DA world, but in our offices around the state, what used to be, you know, the metropolitan offices used to have hundreds of resumes. They have in the dozens. You know, we don't have any resumes right now of people looking for jobs. And so, you know, the reality is, if we had to replace Robin, it's not a matter of just going out and picking the next best qualified person who brings to the table what she does. And that's just not the reality. And, you know, the good news is when you have someone who's really good, it's recognized, but that also means that they are an attractive commodity, to be a little bit harsh about that phrase. But and then I would just throw out, and I know often one of the things I've really learned coming to these meetings is when we look at positions, we don't look at the person in them. We like to look at the positions, the position needed, what have you. In this instance, I'll deviate from that because it does matter. You know, I'm going to talk a little bit about Robin, but she has 21 years of experience in direct service assistant people. That's irreplaceable. She wouldn't be able to do what she does for us, but for those years of experience with Child Protective Services and DSS. What does she do in particular? And I wrote it down so I don't lose track of it, but in addition to her regular court assignments, they all cover local courts, they go to court, they assist victims that come out of those local courts. But she is our point person on the most serious crimes in the county. Right now, we have 2 homicides that are pending, and she is the primary point of contact, assisting the families of the murdered individuals. And that comes with, that's a lot. In addition to that, she's the point person on an arson case, and you know, they're all heading to trial. We have an arson trial starting in a couple of weeks here in Hudson Falls that displaced, I believe, 8 families. The building was a total destruction. So in addition to the owners, and that's a very different world, right? When you have someone who lives in an 8-unit apartment building, you have the owners of the building. To them, for many people, certainly anyone who knows Marta Ward knows that this is entirely true. But usually, a building is a building. They have a financial interest in it, and you know they're worried about that. For the people that live there, everything they own in the world is gone, and so she works with them. And then probably hardest and most important, She handles all of our violent sex crimes and assaults on kids. Sexual assaults on kids, and right now, our last look, that's over 20 having investigations for active cases. So to say she has a full boat, it's significant, and to lose that, we don't just replace that in terms of continuing to deliver services. I'm glad Al's here, because from the county financial side, she's singularly responsible for our grant stuff in our office with the help of Al's office. But I will tell you how difficult managing that grant is, and that's $140,000 a year that we get. And then lastly, days off, vacations, she's available on weekends, like both the salary people are. So, she brings a lot to the table, and really, I'm here today to ask. I can't change her pay. I can't change her benefits. About the only quantitative benefit I can provide is to show appreciation for her service, and so what I'm asking is to read for purposes of vacation only, say that her start date would be whatever her initial start date would be with the county. It's 2002 sometime.
August 12, 2002.
So she's trying to snag her 6 months, or 4 months, but yeah, so August of 2002. I guess she probably left in April. I had that written down.
She left June 1st, 2015, came back April 25th, 2016.
New April was there somewhere. Thanks.
Didn't we do this already?
Yeah.
Something similar?
I brought a request to you to change the reinstatement part of the handbook, which is section 3.006. And you approved to, if an employee returns to the same department that they left, within 18 months, they come back to that step in longevity where they were. It is stated in the handbook that the employee's anniversary date will be the latest date of hire, and benefit leave time will accrue as it would for a new employee.
So that's what you want us to change.
But only for, not in the handbook, but in this instance for Robin is not for pay. We're not adjusting her pay. Her pay is what it is. It would be to have her, and the effect is 5 extra days of vacation.
But that is pay because you're paying her not to work and we want people to work, right?
And we want people, yes, and we want people to remain here working. And part of it is the benefits they receive. And I think in this instance, unlike the hourly workers who, when they're off, they're off. When the homicide happened in Fort Ann, I'm up there at 6 o'clock at night. I call Robin, and she's available to meet with the family that night. And so that's, I think, a unique piece with salary people is they don't have hours. And there's been a lot of times where she's either canceled vacation or come in, or at least responded to issues while she's away. So yes, there's a cost, but there's not a financial cost.
Yeah. So it's a question of. I mean, it's not supported by our policy, how that's written. That's. I know Tony's not asking for a policy change. I think he's asking for an exception to policy as an incentive. And that's what.
You can't really say it's an incentive to keep her because she left and she came back. She had an incentive to come back before any idea of vacation. So that argument kind of is in the table, unless she's thinking about leaving again. Is that the issue?
That's the question.
So you want to do this not to reward her, but to make sure you retain her.
It's both, but yes. Quite frankly, it's something I should have done when we were recruiting her. And I didn't, but
I'm gonna go to Melissa first. Okay.
If this request is approved, I just want you to be aware that most likely you will see other requests come forward. We have had, I think recently, actually, we've had some employees return to the sheriff's office. They are placed at the step in longevity that they have in that line of work, even if it's with a different police department. when they're hired by Washington County. So it is a possibility that you'll see future requests to give those people back time as well, who have left employment.
Well, my opinion is that when the handbook was changed, that was kind of a liberalization of our policy. This is now adding extra onto that, and I think Melissa's right. I think other people, we're gonna have other department heads, this person's very valuable, this person's very valuable, everybody's valuable. I think it's just a slippery slope to go down.
And I don't have the number for you, how many employees have left employment and come back. So I don't even know how many could potentially come forward. But I know that we have had some in the sheriff's office who have also inquired about the vacation time.
And I would, if I may, I would submit that that's a department head call if they're going to come forward and ask. For some, it might be a widget, for others, the issue becomes, we are a service business and we have to perform and deliver a service. And it's not a matter of asking somebody to take a round peg and put it in a round hole, and they have to do that over and over again. There's a talent, there's a skill. And in terms of delivering that service, we very much are a business. And customer satisfaction in a world where people aren't choosing to be matters greatly. No, it matters.
Move it.
So Hogan's making a resolution to move it.
I'll second it for discussion.
Second, discussion.
So I will say that I'm not entirely in favor of doing an exception to one person. I also feel that this committee is not the one to make the decision. I think that we should go this to personnel, and Melissa can make any preparation for what she would like to see if she wants to see any changes. But I do feel we have a recruitment issue that's not going to go away. It's getting worse. We have fewer people in the workforce. So I think we need to seriously address some of these things, potentially at least discuss them out. And I believe Mr. Skelly will be the chair for the next personnel meeting, so it's going to be in your shoes, but I would like to make sure that we vote for the
Amend it to move it to personnel.
I thought that was part of your original motion.
It was. You just interrupted.
Yeah.
Started talking.
Yeah, thank you for that, David. Yeah, I was gonna say, no, we can't, all we can do is recommend.
Am I a one man no vote here?
Probably, you always are.
Do we have just minimum form?
I believe we do.
I might be able to kill this.
That's
Sir,
a shame.
you had a question?
Yeah, for Melissa. Melissa, if I don't disagree with anything with Tony's saying, why was it put in the handbook? If we're making exceptions, and I don't like making exceptions, I'd rather correct the problem than to make exceptions. And is this a problem that should be corrected? I think Tony made a perfect point of why it's a problem and why it should be corrected. And
Yeah,
since you were in your past life involved with some of this, I'm just wondering if you could update us on why it was put that way. And why couldn't it be corrected?
It can be, you can change the handbook anytime you like. The committee was pretty adamant when I asked to have the pay compensation reinstated if you return to county employment within the 18 months. I believe the committee said at that point that they wanted the benefit time to start as a new hire. But you can certainly take that out and you can just have your old date of hire for pay and benefit leave time.
Well, why wasn't it years ago? Why wasn't it, if you left, you couldn't come back?
It was changed, I believe, at some point.
It was in there originally, they couldn't come back to their starting.
That's the way I understand the history.
Oh.
there was a 1 year clock that ticked originally. You came back in a year, you got reinstated.
And then it was changed to if you
So
left.
the changes is what
for a day.
caused the problem. The original handbook would have taken care of this, correct? Is what you're saying, if it was within a year.
I haven't seen that old handbook. I've looked for it. I haven't seen it.
That's my memory, Mr. Shaw, but I.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I'm just, because I think the mistake was in the changes. And maybe the solution is to rethink this and get it back to where it originally was. It takes care of all these problems. We keep making special adjustments on it. That's the part I don't like.
Mr. Chairman.
I'll take some blame because you're right, what's the, one of the bus here, and I is one that got her to, you know, revisit the policy and make the policy changes before, even though you use the sound out of it. It was actually my fault, I just let her take it. But, I would say in this, I don't disagree at all with Tony. Tony makes a very pervasive case here. However, I don't like the one-off business because it's going to do just exactly what Melissa said. It's not, well, gee whiz, what about me? And I think maybe we can make persuasive cases elsewhere, and then something we probably couldn't. I don't think we want to get into that sort of a bartering business. If we're going to do this, I would like to address it as a policy change. This is what we're going to do. Let's do it. Therefore, I think the idea of moving the personnel is the right thing to do, and let's revisit the policy in general and thank Tony for bringing it to us.
Thank you. That's exactly, so Tony and I had this conversation a couple of days ago, and it was about a policy change, and it is about retention, recruitment and retention. And the workforce has changed, so we gotta adjust, and we call the question as to whether or not we have to adjust or not with the policy. Yes, sir.
I disagree with this because sometimes strategy wise goes, if you have a policy that is too much of a change, you do it in incremental steps. You do a little bit now, then after we get used to that, then you add a little bit more. Where in the beginning, if you added all that, the community would have said, no way. So as become a little bit used to something, it's easier to add something more, add something more. It just takes you longer. So I'm kind of against it. I think if you have a discussed out, that's the policy, you shouldn't then within a matter of months change it again and change it again because you didn't want to do it at the very beginning.
I'm trying to.
It's like a bridge too far.
Yeah. It's changed. David.
Recruitment's getting tougher and tougher. We changed the retirement system. Retirement used to be a huge attraction to people. Now, tier 6 that people come into is really not good. I think that recruitment is going to become a bigger issue. We have private industry throwing money at people. I mean, no, look at our CDL drivers in the towns. I just had to pay $25 an hour to hire someone. And the only reason he came for that was because he lives in town. He's old, but that's going to happen in all our towns. It's going to happen to the municipality, to the county, to the state. We need to make sure that things we can control are things like this that may help us not have to go out and fill a position or leave the position vacant because we can't find someone. The training cost, even in this position, well, this is probably one of the hardest to train in the county. I think we need to keep that in mind. The training costs are tremendous for people. And what we're talking about is a drop in the bucket opposed to recruiting and training people. My opinion.
But Dave, it's not like this policy is years old, it's months old. And we changed the policy to help with recruitment. It hasn't even been enough time. Melissa says she doesn't even know how many people have benefited from this. So it's not like you've got to fix something that is outdated. We just fixed it.
Maybe you didn't fix it, we don't know. Or did it that
Well, that's why you have A's and nays.
call it
What do you vote? You have to vote to call the question. You really want to call the question and have us vote on calling the question or just?
All right, any other discussion before we vote on this motion, which is to move it?
personnel. Discussion, have us more.
The exception is not
Vibrant.
changing the.
No.
That's what you're voting on.
No, the policy.
Oh, your vote, okay, to change the policy.
It's a
Talking about
recommendation.
moving this to personnel for discussion about changing, potential change in policy where we have more people involved.
Okay.
Aye.
No.
All right,
Nay.
Let's get you put that on agenda anyways, personnel.
There's only 4 of you, so. It's needed.
Okay. One man army.
So good call. I'll be back next month. Actually, I'll just put it on personnel committee.
Personnel.
Yes.
Jake can ask that.
I know.
Put on the.
I'm not on personnel.
You would have to take that up with the chairman of the personnel.
If I may, on the issue of one-offs versus overall. There, I could envision a world where if I have a department that requires bodies on the road. Or bodies in an office. You may not be able, with your current staffing pattern, to handle multiple excessive vacation. You know, one of the problems with government work is the longer you're here, the more vacations you get. Try to schedule grand jury with the state police, you know, the investigators get a lot of vacation to use in the summer, right? That's a reward. But if I'm the sheriff and I have only a certain number of deputies and I have to cover a certain amount, I may not want to have that person who's coming back get too much vacation time right away. I want to reward them with money because I got to look back for counties that pay more money. Or some villages that pay more, or cities, but I may not want the vacation piece. So, you know, for me in this position, I can live with that. There might be other positions where I couldn't live with that. So that is one value I see where you leave it to the department heads to have no, I'm not going to advocate this for you because I need you to be able to do it, you know that, or for others to say, yeah, that's a reward that I can afford to have. You know, I hope that makes sense, but I don't.
Tony, you're really gonna complicate the discussion in the personnel meeting now. Because now you're leaving it kind of wide open for the policy is in the department head. Here's your basic policy. Now the department.
Well, but that's why it would be a one-off, they'd have to come back forward. I'm just throwing that out, and I'm happy to come to personnel and talk about the policy or the value of it overall, because I do think there's value in the overall acknowledgement that, you know, it should be, some people leave where they're working because they think it's better on the other side. They spend 3 months driving down the Northway in 787 and suddenly they realize, well, you know, the state isn't all that in a bag of donuts. So why don't I come back? And then they look at what they're coming back to. And I think Dan had this in his department. They would think a significant financial hit to the county trying to address that, but there's more people today care less about how much money they're making. Ask anyone who has to get people to work overtime than they do the benefits they're getting in terms of time off.
That depends on age.
What's that?
Younger people do not want benefits, all they want is money.
And you're right, Mr. Skelly, I will limit my.
That's true.
Bag when I come.
How dare you?
I know you didn't know you're related.
It's a process.
It's a process. Thank you.
Okay, great. What is that?
Okay,
Don't you feel bad now?
other business for the
Short timer.
Public Safety Committee. Let's see, John over there. Yes, sir.
Just have a quick request, requesting overnight authorization for one member to go to the Empire State Safety Association meeting in Oswego. And I have money in the budget, but it's my oversight that it is. Our travel wasn't percent, so.
Oh, do I have a second? Second, Mr. O'Brien. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. John, you good? Anything? No? Tim, you good? I want to publicly thank everybody in public safety and anybody involved in the fair. It was an excellent event, and I really appreciate everybody putting forth that effort and making the county proud, actually. So thank you for that. Any other business? Hearing none, we're adjourned.
Kim, I don't have. We get it. We'll call the government ops meeting to order. First thing up is we need to accept the minutes for July 25th, 2023, moved by Dan, seconded by Dave. Any further discussion?
You think your sunglasses are reading glasses?
They are, they're prescription. Everything I own is prescription. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Yes, my clear glasses are not with me. Laura, you're the only one here, so I guess you get to go first.
Oh, there we go. Short and sweet. Short, quick. Anyways, we currently have a contract with Auctions International to do our tax sale foreclosure auctions. That current contract that we have expires on December 31st of 2024. We're not having, I don't believe, an auction this year, and we may not have one until June of next year or later. I would, what I'm here to today is to ask for an extension of that contract for 1 year to December 31 of 2025.
I agree, but what mechanically do we have to do to extend the contract? Do you just amend a contract?
We would do it, I would have the county attorney do a new contract up.
Have you reached out to them?
Have I reached out to Auctions International? Yeah.
Agreed.
Yep.
And everything will go through.
But this was never originally a bid type thing, was it?
It was.
So that's my question. How does that,
We extended it after COVID because they went 2 years.
you can extend a bid?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And we actually do have one, it's a second in the discussion. Yeah. We do have that one property that will be coming up in Granville, and they're gonna be taking a look at that, next week. To see, take some pictures to start the online auction for that, and I'll let you know the dates when that comes.
Now, who interfaces with Auctions International? You
And now,
and Al, and do you, Melissa, too, or just nothing, just the two of you?
It's my option.
Well, Mr. Auction, are you satisfied with doing this? What's your recommendation?
No, absolutely.
Okay.
Auctions International has done a
So
pleasure.
the two of you are happy with what you have?
Yeah.
Okay.
If we go to because we have to, not because we're to set.
Huh? Or second it, is that what we have to, yeah, you.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
They pass it over the moratorium. The government sign it.
She has done.
That's to her.
Right, no change.
That was it?
yep, that's all I have.
Laura?
Yep.
Don't you have one more?
What's that?
Don't you have a correct one?
That's for finance.
No, they're gonna come out of here first. Not bad.
Nope, that's fine. I am bringing forward the revised policy against discrimination and harassment policy. Danielle, and we did work with Roger, and they have made some recommended changes to the current policy based on what was updated by NYMER. Just looking for approval to change that policy.
Moved by Dave,
Do we adopt that here, or does it move somewhere else?
It can be, well,
Just strictly.
because
to
it
the
was
board.
provided, I believe it can be approved here, right? Debbie?
No, it has to go to the full board after this.
is it the? Is it you
It's not a handbook, no, it's a policy change.
Policy probably go out to the board. Handbook changes.
Well,
If they're presented prior to.
I think it does, but I'm sorry, but how This is crazy. How politically correct are we going to get? Are we all gonna become liberal Democrats or something? And I can't even get past the first couple of paragraphs here, but I don't know why we can't just put a period after, we're not gonna, without subjugation to harassment or discrimination in the workplace. Period. Because I think when you start itemizing everything, when you leave something out, that's the problem. You're better off not itemizing. Also, scope of policy. Is this the one I want? Where's the one where it talks about your criminal backgrounds? That the let's see.
Bottom of the top paragraph.
Okay, prior, so we're not going to consider a prior arrest or conviction record. What if you are convicted of a felony of internet banking fraud and you want to go work for Al's office? You can't say no? That's just dumb. I think you have to consider people's prior arrest or conviction record, especially if it's fraud. And you're in a department handling money or billing, we're just. And I can't even get past the first page. Much less all the other stuff.
Some of that, of course, depends on what the federal law has told you gotta do. So. If we're told we can't discriminate against somebody because he is a white leader or whatever, then we can't discriminate against him because that's the law of the land. I don't like that at all. And I think Dana's exactly right. A period at the end of that first sentence, we cover everything very nicely. But I think there's some federal mandate stuff in here we've gotta consider. I think that's what Danielle is doing. She's not trying to liberalize our policy. I think she's trying to make it conform to what our insurance carrier is telling us the federal mandates are.
But do they say you must list them?
I don't know. I'm not capable of thinking of it this morning. This
So
morning.
that was my question, is how much of it is actual law and how much of it is 9-year law? Because we have an issue at the town with something that 9-year wants. Necessarily.
Yeah, we did the same thing. I wanted something and we said no. They said,
So that's
okay.
what I'm cautious of, how much
I don't-
9-year's request, how much is actually law request. Dan, you had a comment too?
No, you made it. I'm with you. No, I'm with you.
Can we find out?
I'm in personnel officer right now.
Want to be talking along with 9-year.
I mean, what if I identify as somebody from another planet? You have to honor me?
I'm pretty sure you.
That qualifies.
Uranus.
That's why that is affecting you. So.
I think it,
Because it's a policy change. Handbook changes go to personnel.
Okay, well, while we're waiting for you now, Danielle, is there something else you wanted to?
There is. I have the renewal contract for our retirees' health insurance. As you know, we have Humana as the retiree health insurance. The renewal is up January 1st, 2024. I am, actually, there was a 6.7% increase for 2024 and the current rates being $297.43 are going up to $317.24. So I am looking for some kind of approval to have the chairman sign the contracts that are necessary so that I can get those into Benetton.
Yeah.
Can you refresh me on what portion of do we pay retirees on health insurance?
I can refresh you, but it's all different. It depends when the retiree retired on what they contribute.
We'll freshen it up as much as you can.
Well, I don't have the dates.
If you're retired today, it's the same as if you were here, so 25%.
Is what we would pay.
No.
As a county.
The retiree would pay 25%.
Oh,
For-
and you would, oh,
But
wow.
that changes.
Retirees today are under whatever their current employees are.
Okay,
But then there's an 83, a 97, a 2009, there's different mile markers.
was it less for,
It was less
for us,
for the retiree.
for the,
They went from 0 to 10 to 20 to now 25.
so they had full retirement or full hospitalization
Before
years ago?
83, I think is the first demarcation.
Okay,
There, and I don't know that we have any or many left in that.
It's become more restrictive.
It becomes, well, they pay more of the premium. But I can tell you the retirees, because I deal with them all the time, because they pay me their share. And they have absolutely loved our experience with Humana's. The retirees are very, very fond of the product, I can tell you that.
and how many years you have to get this benefit?
20. You have to be vested in health insurance and able to be retired. But nothing.
Any other questions for Joanna? Okay, so let's clean up one thing at a time. Dave, you want to take care of the motion off the table so we can get this one complete, then we'll go back to Danielle. Okay, so that's gone. So can I have a motion to approve the Humana and have Don sign it? Moved by Dana. Seconded by Dave.
I do have a question.
Okay.
Does this have to go up for bid again?
No. We don't put the health insurance out to bid.
Got it.
Yeah, the broker looks at the,
You could ask them to, but
this is a really good Medicare Advantage plan.
Any further questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay, we'll back up to the original question on the policy. I don't know if we were that. So the question was, how many of these changes were dictated by the state and federal government and how much of it was dictated by NYMER?
NYMER recommended these, but they are based on the federal and state laws. So actually, I looked up the information this morning to make sure, because I'm doing handbook changes. So I did look under the Title VII of the Federal Civil Rights Act of 1964, the Age Discrimination Employment Act, Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act and the New York State Human Rights Law and American with Disabilities Act. So all of those were reviewed and they had the, let's go to Section 1 of the purpose.
So can I ask one more time? Who reviewed it? The state government, the federal government, or NYMER? That's the question. And
More
there's concern.
mandate.
It's,
Must we put this language in, or is it recommended?
it's recommended based on the laws.
So NYMER chose the wording recommended, you included, and now it's coming to us to pass. Question is, we want to know how much of it is actually mandated before we move on. Is that what you guys were saying? Did I interpret that correctly? We want to know what's mandated. Dana, to the text.
Well, it's what
Is it texting Dana Hogan?
in the law, so I mean, we could go back, I could go back, because I'm unsure specifically the exact wording.
You use some wording.
With all of the, all of the basis of discrimination is listed. But again, I would have to see the mandate of the federal and state laws. So if you want. to
So we're
look at
just
the
kinda-
personnel,
Let's go back.
Why couldn't you just say, because I was saying. The first half of the paragraph where it says we're gonna, protect, safeguard the right opportunities, all blah, 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 period. And you could even say as mandated by federal or state law. I'm against listing all these things. Because if you list something and you leave something out, it's not covered. I don't like itemizing specifically. I think it should be a little bit more vague to that.
So is it something you can take back and maybe look at, see what is exactly mandated? bring it again. That's okay with you guys? Is that okay with you guys?
I think we need to remember also the NYMER's out there to cover us liability wise. So they're looking out, I think, for us as an employer to make sure that we're listing what we should to cover us in the long run. But we can check with NYMER.
Because they're gonna.
But they also don't look at the
represent
real world. They just look at their being risk adverse and you have to do, if you do everything to protect yourself, you might not ever leave your house every day.
What's nice about Mr. Hess' recommendation is as a state and federal regulation, your policy moves with them. You don't have to.
This is
Because I guarantee you next year, they're gonna come up with a new class of people that want special rights. And I think everyone has rights, not special rights for special people.
I think we all ought to have canes, back there at the time of the, depends on the Congress, they take a cane if you agree. Yeah, that's how they did it.
They also had rules.
Well, you know.
Okay, let's give our attention back to Melissa. She does
Okay.
have another.
I have one final item. I brought this to committee quite a while ago. That Assemblyman Simpson had brought to us an application so that we could apply, for a SAM grant that was available. It was $100,000 grant. He brought us the application to apply, and we at that point applied for the new Meals on Wheels building that had been discussed a little bit. It has not been secured with any kind of funding yet. Hasn't really been approved. I think Matt was still trying to design what it is was going to be in that building. So in order to not lose out on this possible $100,000, I, in speaking to Matt, we think we're better off applying it toward the Fort Ann Highway Barns because we're further ahead to that building. The funds have already been secured. So at this point, I have the application with the revision. And would like to apply for that $100,000, but would need permission to have the chairman's signature on any paperwork that's involved in this grant.
Take the motion. Moved by Dan. Need a second.
Well, I guess I can't ask a discussion until I get a second, so I second.
There you go.
Won't we still need a Meals on Wheels building? After you divert the money somewhere else?
Well, it's $100,000 toward whatever
Construction.
building. We could have used it for anything, really.
But it had to be his capital project? Does it have to
It didn't have to be, it could have been equipment as well. But it was recommended that we put it toward a building at that point. The Chairman Hall, that was, the chairman at the time, who really thought that, the Meals on Wheels would be a great project that would apply that to.
Okay, so you're just
That would not-
prioritizing what building?
I just don't want to put it off, 5 or 10 years and then we just lose out on this money. Just trying to get it off our plate and get that money in our hands.
I agree.
Any other questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right,
Opposed? Carried. Matt?
so can I ask a question?
Oh.
Back to the policy, those policies, I think some of our policies, in the policy said any changes are at the committee level. There are some we kept at the board level,
Yes, you're correct.
so I just want to make sure that's understood.
Right. I was trying to.
In my own memory more.
I was trying to confirm that before you get to the peak, right? You'd have to look at the resolution that, or this kind of,
Adopted.
this policy to see how it was adopted.
I wish I went to know with her. I still wish I would ask her about the prior arrest.
But now the handbook policy doesn't fall under that, right?
That goes through personnel.
And yeah, I understand it goes to personnel, but then does it go to the full board?
There's a resolution that states if the amendment comes to the handbook in prior to the personnel meeting, then the committee can approve. There's a resolution stating that. You'd have to look in this policy to see what it says about the policy we're considering today, we're considering. How it's worded.
Not much of a guideline.
Almost ought to clean that policy.
It's like, yeah, because like everything is a special case.
Well, we were changing it as we were changing them as we reviewed the policies, we were changing them.
We're changing so fast now, we don't even know where we go to change.
Okay, let's give our attention to Matt.
Okay, a few quick things. Safety days is coming up. Every year I come and ask for permission to spend 500 budgeted on the safety lot. If we do stuff with the day.
I make the motion, but if it's already budgeted,
It's because of,
oh,
because
because
it's
it's,
trying to do the safety day, so.
so it's something perishable.
Moved by Dana, seconded by Dave. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Carried.
Next is just an update. I'm gonna let Bob kind of lead of what we need to do. The environmental assessment forms are all completed for Danville. So we're gonna need a full board resolution to accept them. I don't know what we do in committee other than let everybody know, or do you have to move it forward?
No, I think you just notify that it picked up as a resolution.
I think the secret resolution,
Yeah.
they usually run through, I think, finance. Isn't seekers, we always get them at the big board meeting and they have the whole pamphlet. Roger.
Right,
the-
we
the-
don't do
the-
separate, we don't do separate committee action on the seekers. Seekers not finance.
No, because seeker, lots of times we see it at the full board, right? That's the first time we see it.
First time.
Yeah.
So we have it
It's
done.
mentioned in
Bob has a copy, Sam has a copy for Dan. So I guess we don't need to do anything here. That's just a heads up.
I think the only way you would have to see something here is if there's an exception to secret, like, low cost pollution.
I think we need
Yeah,
those out
you know.
of policy.
Yeah, we don't have any of that, so. The use of the property staying the same. The biggest thing we're doing is we're working on the property transfer, which is survey is just getting done, so basically combining the two. So we can,
It's basically negative there, so it's not a big deal.
We're gonna try to plan a meeting, I guess, for the Fort Ann, mostly Sam and the lawyers, just to hash out some sort of the agreements and everything we need to finish this, and with that also to in the bond council, so we know what we need. We're gonna try to do it this week or next week, so just people. So I think and so I should be able to report that at the next government ops. Yeah, 14 projects in the fall. They're all in progress as best I can tell you. If you want details, ask me where we're at. Some of them aren't moving very fast and some of them are moving fast. I just this week got the final drawings done to submit to the Department of Health. I just have to review them for the they call it con application, but basically that's for public health. The other plans that I just got back this week, I still haven't reviewed. I reviewed them with Bill and probably Tim Hardy, are the fire system for this building. All three buildings. That's a pretty big project.
Question.
Yep.
What year? I'll make it that easy. What year do you think we'll have Fort Ann barn done, and what year do you think you'll have Middle Falls?
Fort Ann will start next year.
Yeah, I don't care about the start. They've all kind of started.
Fort Ann, I would, as far as everything is like looking right now, I would say next year that will be complete.
Okay,
In Middle Falls, this is more of a, my personal opinion, we're not far enough along to gauge it, but without another entity, it's just a county. As that starts to ramp up, things are gonna be quicker. We're not gonna have to double up on
so next year.
meetings and approvals and everything else. So I would say that one, and it's a much smaller building than Fort Ann, would probably be, I'd love to get that, maybe, let's just say started next fall.
So 25 you would have that.
That'd be, I mean, hopefully I can. do
Is
it
that
quicker.
too optimistic?
No, that's not good for that. For that project. It's like, some of these, we have multiple entities up here. We have the village to go through to get a resolution to get on the sewer and the water. So we have to go, all that stuff's popping up now. But we're getting ready before the end of the bid this fall. We're hoping to get first up in the spring.
You know,
Thank you.
sorry.
Any other questions for Matt? Thank you. And our other? Mr. Hanky?
I have two others. One is probably gonna cost us some money and one probably doesn't cost very much. But occasionally things come up that come to my attention, I think ought to come to the committees and be discussed. Going forward, I think that the government office is the first place to bring this. The first one I want to bring up is GPS. We GPS all our highway trucks and things. I think it's kind of important to GPS all our county vehicles. We've got a caseworker going out to the wilds of Hartford somewhere, you know, dealing with taking away people's kids or something, and all of a sudden that vehicle doesn't come up. Doesn't detect the alarm. I kind of like to know where they were last. I don't think of this as we're gonna sit here and watch and make sure that you didn't go to the grocery store on your way home. But when somebody comes up missing, I'd like to be able to ping that vehicle and see where the heck it is.
Can you already do that with a county provided cell phone?
Not reliable.
Not reliable.
There's one place you can't get
Yeah,
service.
I thought about the cell phone first, and we've got so many dead spots. That I could disappear in almost anywhere in Argyle. And you couldn't find the phone. Hell, when I lose it, I can't find the phone. And the phone was just not enough service to do so. I think that's a pretty significant long-term safety thing. And it could well be a management thing too, but I think it's a long-term safety thing that we really ought to consider. I've asked Deb to try and give me a price on what's going to cost. So far, I haven't seen a number.
The estimate that she's provided so far is like $48,000 for the vehicles.
But that's just the initial
All
cost.
right, there's a recurring.
Then there's every year there's an annual cost.
There's a recurring cost. It's not-
How many,
It's not.
how many vehicles are there? So you're talking about
All
car,
the carpool.
there's other cars outside
And
of.
fleet vehicles.
Yeah.
I don't think the sheriff's office, I think he has his own GPS already on his vehicles. But it would be the rest of the county owned vehicles.
So we've got basically the sheriff covered and we've got the highway covered. But the rest of them, I think, are just as important as those.
How much, what's that come down to per vehicle? Just wondering what,
I don't.
to load jack your car. How many cars do we have?
Bojack's more expensive.
I believe over 100. I don't know the exact
I'm
number
gonna guess
for
that.
carpool and fleet. I actually have the list in my office. It's probably yesterday.
I think the purpose today is that I kind of had hoped for a little bit bigger meeting, but.
We're last.
Two more bodies here, but if.
$400 a car? My math right?
Yeah, they are math, right?
That's not bad.
Maybe 500. If there's 100 cars, that's 5,000.
Yeah.
50,000.
If there's absolutely no interest in doing that, and you think I'm full of it, then this is a good time to kill it, but I also think we've really got a long-term safety issue here. If it's important for highway and important for sheriff, it's certainly just as important to me as the code enforcement guy disappears, so it's probably more likely. If the caseworker disappears.
Bob, you might know this, and out of curiosity, does the state do that on all, like their DEC officers and all the forest rangers, do they have all that on them? Or,
Yeah, they've got it, that's through the radio system. They can ping them and tell you exactly where you are anytime of day or night.
so it's not GPS, it's something different?
It's a little bit, it's a different, I think they're, and I may be wrong, I might have GPS them by now, but they were triangulating between radio towers. Oh, they were located for, there's been location on the, all the important vehicles for years.
And can you legally, Melissa, without having an attorney here, use this also to verify that our employees are doing their job? As far as are they using it to go shopping with and like that?
So that wouldn't be our reason
Goal,
for
right.
doing it, right?
But if you became suspicious of an employee, you could look into it that way.
If you knew that there was a county car, a place that it shouldn't be,
Yeah,
it could be a disciplinary matter.
right.
Covered this with.
That might involve some union.
And well, I reached out to our labor attorney yesterday. I haven't heard back yet to see if it's something that you would have to talk to. the union about.
Well, the reason
We're
I
not
asked,
following the person, we're following the car.
Correct.
right, because the reason I'm asking this is I even at the town level will get a call once a year, once every other year. How come a county car is here or a county car is there? I got no idea. It's nothing really to do with me. But now I could almost say, Melissa, I'm getting this complaint. You go look into it if you want, but I want to let you know I'm getting a complaint, right? That's.
And we do that now, right? Because we get phone calls once in a while that there's, a county vehicle at Stewart's or something, but a lot of employees, that's your break time.
Right.
You might have
I mean,
been working for 8 hours straight. You went to get a cup of coffee or something.
Right.
So, but we do that now.
I think it's a good idea, but the next question is, where would you find the money?
I think it's something we'd be looking to do next year, right?
So
Something
what
we budget
it'd be,
for.
you have to put it in the budget.
Coming into budget
Contingency
season.
County machinery?
Well, I don't know where it would go.
Carpool?
It's probably, yeah, probably all come under Dutch stuff on the carpool.
So the carpool cars would be equipped through carpool and the machinery will be equipped through county road machinery. But I think most of the county road machinery is already in that,
The trucks all have it now, all the county trucks.
so this would be a carpool expense.
But it,
20.
but for $48,000, if you wanted to track of you, everything else, that might be a different package, that's gonna be a lot more money.
Maybe, or
Depends on how capable.
maybe you would make it cheaper.
We look at some of the systems they have, I think we're already tracking where the vehicles are, especially police cars. It does show what location they're at. Sometimes it even says Dunkin' Donuts. I remember that in my head from the scene on the screen.
So you guys think it's okay moving forward along with the budget discussions coming up?
Yes.
It's something we work in the budget. We only need a general consensus here,
Yeah, I
correct?
don't think we need a motion.
I think it's a good idea.
I just wanted to bring it forward to this group. Maybe the other one shouldn't cost as much. It's not
Yeah.
my intent. It's still involved vehicles. Come to my attention, we've got some county vehicles out there that are completely unmarked vehicles. Now, there's obviously reasons to do that in the sheriff department, investigators. The DA's investigator maybe, but our regular general vehicle driving around, we drove one to Intercounty not too long ago that didn't have a seal on the side. I think every one of our county vehicles, absent a discussion from a department head saying I need an unmarked vehicle for this, I think every one of our vehicles ought to have a decal on there in contrasting colors. And I'd like to reflectorize. I think it's a big safety deal. I'm not embarrassed to have people say, hey, I was gonna add the dance question, because it'll be easier to see them when they're at Stewart's, but I think they ought to be contrasting colors so you can see them. I think that'll be reflectorized. I know there's some that have got, ghost seals on them now and things that you don't see very well in the daytime, but they glow at night. I wouldn't want to throw a retrofit or something, but I think everything out there,
I thought, did something change? I thought always was every car and carpool is marked.
sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. I'd like to make sure it is.
Do we have a policy on
No,
this?
and that's why I'd like a policy.
I think all it is just a vinyl.
Oh, yeah, I
machine.
think
It's over here, it's not a.
Right, I'm all in favor. I thought they all had it. I didn't know they didn't.
And for the ghost thing, those ghost logos, that would be department approval. To
Yeah,
have the
I
ghost.
think they ought to come and ask us. For that. And maybe there's a good reason for it. I never liked running around my unmarked car. I like lights and logos and things. I think people ought to know what's when you're out there working.
That's why he wants
So,
decals on the cars when he drives the Intercounty.
I'm not sure about the pinstriping though. I don't understand why you, safety wise. Yeah, you said not just a logo, you wanted,
The logo itself.
oh, I thought you had.
Sprinkle some beads, sprinkle beads on it.
Yeah,
No.
no, it's just different vinyl. Just- and probably cost a little bit more if you need to know, but, you know, if you're gonna put a decal on. You know, have it light up at night when somebody just do the lights when you're sitting parked on the side of the road.
The unmarked card, did it not say in the back corner, like the number of the card, 978, or they're all numbered, right?
I think they all are anyway.
So would your policy include that too?
Who's what?
To be numbered.
Because it seems like it's all kind of discretionary how it's been doing. How we've been doing
Well,
it.
I mean, there's reasons when you're doing police investigation, you have an unmarked car, although mostly ours are pretty easy to recognize anyway.
No, but if somebody sees a car and they have a question, it's a county car and it was car number 978.
Yeah.
I think it should be both. I'm in favor of it.
I'm not against that.
Put in a red policy on that, or we can just say that we don't have everything.
We might have to amend the policy, right? There must have been something that started all this.
We can just direct the department head to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We don't have to have a policy.
What's your opinion, Dave? There's only three of
I
you. We got
think
two.
it's a good idea. I think, I don't know, policies, put someplace in someplace they do it.
I personally think it'd be a good idea to have a policy. I think we ought to direct most of it up.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll be, thank you. That's
Somewhere else
paperwork
we
for
can
us,
put it.
the next government act.
Ask Nymer, they probably would agree.
Some policy we put into.
That's probably something.
Is there a
Anything
policy we
else?
Put into,
What did you say? I'm sorry.
might be better put in a policy that already exists versus another policy.
Yeah, there probably is.
Okay. Anything else other to come for government acts?
I can't think of it.
Well,
we have to do something.
we do. So, Board of Elections has 4 grants in play. Then 1 is a carryover and 2 are new. So I just need a resolution to send to finance, the 3 that need to be budgeted. We can actually do them as one motion if you choose to, but we've got a carryover from the 2022 postage in the amount of $15,889. We have a 23 postage in the amount of $20,158. And we got a 23, what they call the tier grant, which is like his equipment, is $57,105.86. So if we can get those 3 budgeted, the 4th one has actually already been in the 23 budget. So if we could send that to finance, that would be fantastic.
Have a motion to move that to finance, moved by Dan, seconded by Dave. Any other discussion?
That's a lot of money.
And they probably won't spend all the postage money, but that's what they were awarded.
Well, one thing they told us is that most of you hear the original definitions are kind of out the window. You can spend it on
Oh, well, that's a game changer.
I've heard that before. Then it comes back, well, no. we can't depend on anything.
What we meant to say.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay, all in favor, say aye. Opposed?
Thank
Carried.
you. Express something.
All right, we're all set. Adjourned.